Hi.
Hello.
Who doesn't love a good chat with Elizabeth Neal?
I sure do.
Well, I see that we have Luke here. Hi, Luke. And it is like marginally less hot here. I imagine that it's less hot there.
It's really nice here. It's another pro to being surrounded by trees, as you have. It's nice and cool.
I'm a little sparkly today. Let me see if I can fix that.
Kung Fu Fenris, yes. Often. I'm often speaking to myself. And it still makes no sense.
Well,
She does.
What's wrong
Yes.
what's wrong with talking with yourself?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Oh, I see what the issue is. Haha, that's what the issue is. That's why I'm so sparkly. I can fix this. We can fix this. I'm Bob the Builder. I feel like Bob the Builder is one of those things that I have no frame of reference for, like, at all.
Bob the Builder. Can we fix it? Bob the Builder. Yes, we can.
Okay, so it turns out that someone has a basis of comparison, just not me.
I just know the theme.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So much of my brain is occupied with old theme songs to things. Will that serve me in life? Maybe in
Well,
situations
better.
like now, but otherwise it's just taking up real estate.
Okay. I'm pleased to see we got Kung Fu Fenris, we have Gale Whispered, we have Biff the Boss, whoever the fuck that is. No idea. The theme tune now goes, "Can we build it too?"
Can we build it? Well, of course you can. He already built it. He's Bob the Builder. It's assumed he can build things.
Does
But can
Bob
he
the Builder
fix
ever
it?
fail?
No.
Like, there's never an episode where it just like everything collapses and he's just like, "What have I done?"
No.
Or
I think you should write a dark timeline, Bob the Builder.
Like he builds a bridge and everyone's celebrating by walking over the bridge, and then the bridge collapses and Bob
God.
just stands there and he's just, and everyone survives.
We'll get Scott to compose the theme song, but in like a minor key.
Whoa.
What do you think, Scott?
This is
Bob's bad day.
Bob then has to dig out an iron ring from the wreckage and wear it to remind him of the awesome responsibility he has to make sure that whatever he builds is actually up to engineering spec.
That'd be the worst episode ever.
But like, at least then it would tie in with the whole Canadian iron ring thing.
E minor chord. Oh boy, here we go. Scott's
The
on it.
repeated OSHA violator. Yikes. They slimmed him down and made him in bad CGI, but I bet it's way cheaper to make. Hello, Magical Captain King, NFL. And cheaper to make means more Bob the Builder for everyone. And more profits into the coffers of our corporate overlords.
John, you went from having no frame of reference for Bob the Builder to completely like rewriting the show. So congratulations.
It's kind of what I do. It's kind of my thing. We are here today to do our last PC conversion from Season 1 of Exalted Academy over to Season 2 of Exalted Academy, moving from Exalted 3rd Edition to Exalted Essence, which is still 3rd Edition, just different. And this has been, so far, it's been really interesting to see how characters have swapped over. Both Aresta and Pyres were taken care of, and if you care to look, you'll find that over on our YouTube channel if you want to have a look at it. But now we have Gale Whispered left behind, and we will rectify this today. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling excited. I've done some reading, and some pre-thought and prep. And some things I'm really happy with how they've switched over, and other things I'm like, okay, this might either be a recalibration or something that I'm gonna talk through with you. But I'm very excited for today.
So as a reminder, there is absolutely no way that we can do a one-for-one conversion. Whenever you change systems, you are going to be changing elements of that character's sheet. It's impossible. So we are going to have to figure out, how do we maintain what Gale Whispered is and how she feels and how she plays, and move that from one system to another. She will have some things that she could do before, that she can do now, that she could not do before. And she will have some things that perhaps she could do before, but that she will no longer be able to do in the new system. And this is okay. The trick, though, is to make sure that it still feels like the character, that when you pick it up and we move on with season 2, even though the sheet may have changed, we've done our best to make sure that the feel of playing Gale Whispered is the same. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at it. If we can't come to an agreement on how things are going, that's fine. We can negotiate later on.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
A fight to the death.
Later on. Yeah.
I mean, I know that you have your new death pit outside. The fencing is being installed as we speak. The electrified fencing.
We got the mud delivered today.
Oh my!
For some extra space.
So if we can't come to an accord, then we can still discuss it. And obviously, if we make this sheet and you're like, hey, I'm really excited about it, and then tomorrow you're not, it's fine. None of this is binding. You're still going to have a few sessions in where you're going to be able to make changes because it's a new system that we haven't played yet. I'm interested in one day knowing what made Liz feel apprehensive about Exalted Essence. I don't know. I can hear that now.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I phrased it wrong. I don't mean apprehensive about the system, because I'm actually really excited about the system. It was just in converting things from third to essence. I was like, oh, and well, you'll hear me talk it out. But some things took a hit so that I could put more dots into other things, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Lame stuff.
And I'm sure that there's some things that we're probably going to fudge around, and that's fine too, right? Not anything that I'm going to be particularly worried about. So, what we see on the screen right now is your sheet as you filled out on Lot Casting Atemi. So we have your old sheet that we can consult if we need to. It's a lovely sheet. There are things on it that, like for instance, you no longer have a health level worth of damage. I'm not going to start you damaged. For someone who has never played Exalted, what's a few things it does well? Do you have an answer for that?
I find the combat is very cinematic. So that's really exciting. And I love that it encourages, I love the emphasis it places on social actions. There are many systems where the emphasis is on combat primarily, but in this one, it's really important that you know very clearly what your character cares about, because you can use that as a weapon, or it can be used as a weapon against you, which adds to the drama.
Exalted really, to me, is taking Western and Eastern mythologies, mixing them together, and then putting out a system which is both more complicated and more adaptable than something like Dungeons and Dragons. It really does the not combat part of role-playing far better, in my experience. And then for the combat part, it's much more cinematic and much kind of less math or strategy based. There's still a bunch of strategy involved, and there's still adding and subtracting and multiplying and all that, but it isn't quite as mapped out as D&D. So if you like your things a little more freeform, and like Liz said, more cinematic, then that's a good way of putting it. And it's also just your power level is way higher at the start. Like, you are significantly more powerful than you are as a first level D&D character. Okay, let's have a look at your blank sheet here. And we're going to pull up here the
Siri,
rules.
Please play Taylor Swift's Blank Page. Thank you very much. Blank space, sorry.
Let's open up the character creation chapter here, which is chapter 3 if you want to follow along. And let's go for it. Session 0, we already did a session 0 with this character, and we'll be doing another one. That's actually on Sunday. So we don't really have to worry about that. Your concept isn't really changing. Somebody who delves into hidden knowledge in order to be the best strategist, and perhaps later on somebody who can gather the most powerful army possible behind her. So that helps. Let's see here. So we don't have to worry about your concept, but we are going to start talking about your attributes. So you have now, instead of the 9 attributes, thanks Requiem Lost. That is almost a year.
Oh, shit.
So instead of 9 attributes, we've gone down to 3. So Force, Finesse, and Fortitude. And I guess now's as good a time as any to point out that since you are Essence 2, you're not a starting character, you are going to be able to assign 1 4 and 2 3s to your attributes. And if we need to shift things around, we can. We have your abilities and your charms and merits also displayed here on screen. So, for your attributes, Force, Finesse, and Fortitude, which one do you think you want to put as your primary?
Finesse, please.
Well, I mean, I think that's not going to be a surprise to anybody who sort of has been following along with...
I sort of feel like my sheet, not necessarily more so than the others, but I feel like the dots that I'm about to tell you are going to be very predictable. Like in abilities and attributes.
Makes sense. Now, do you feel like this layout of 4-3-3 works for you, or did you feel strongly that you might want to make that more of a 5-3-2?
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I'm trying to remember. I didn't have my log casting sheet pulled up because I had Strength 2, Dex 4, Stamina 3. I know that's not like the straight conversion or anything like that, but oh, that's interesting.
Because your intelligence was at 5. That was your 1-5 that you had as your attributes. But you were much stronger when it came to your, shall we say, your finesse than your force. Your charisma was at 1, your strength at 2.
Okay, let's make yeah, that's a good idea. Let's make force 2 and finesse 5 with your blessing.
I think that's a strong thing to point out. So we've moved into 2-5-3 at this point. So your fortitude is at 3, your finesse is at 5, and your force is at 2.
Oh, that's interesting. Gilad Good thinks that it should be enforced.
So let's have a look. Let's check the reasoning. She's not the type to say that she knows exactly the right thing for the job. She's the one who knows everything, and therefore the problem should bow down before her intellect. I would argue that she's also made it clear that she doesn't want to be the one to bring forward her knowledge. Even if she thinks that she's correct, she doesn't, stride forward and immediately say, you do this and do this and do that, and I will make it happen. You actually want others to make it happen for you.
Yes, exactly, which is why I went for finesse over force, because to me, force comes with it a certain amount of presence and charisma, and I see that as very much like the antithesis to Gale.
So if we look at the attributes, and we look at the description of the attributes, which is in chapter 4, just because this is an important thing and we can, have a look at it. Force is approaching an action with physical strength, force of personality, or direct logic. Finesse, however, is approaching an action with quick thinking, clever words, or dexterous capability. And fortitude is approaching an action with physical endurance, vigilance, or composure. So the reality is that we don't actually have something perfect for the way that Gale Whispered was set up. She has never been, in my opinion, somebody who has approached something with physical strength or force of personality. And I would then make the argument that finesse is probably the best option for you, because we can rationalize that her logical brain involves trying to get your way to the problem as opposed to powering through it with straight up logic. It isn't perfect.
Yeah.
But I feel like finesse fits Gale better than force.
I agree. And I also think that there can be some, like, now that you and I know that there's that little bit of an overlap, like, we can address those moments in game and talk it out. I do think that we should make it finesse 4 and force 3, though.
Okay.
After having this conversation, I don't want to drop force by so much.
Okay, so then that makes sense. We'll put this back
Thank you.
to 433.
433, please.
All right. And as we continue, if
Brennan
you find
Hawkwood
yourself...
brings up a really good point. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, the problem of the attributes being rendered down to 3 with many different aspects, it is easy to have a character that should be very strong in one aspect of a given attribute while very bad with another aspect of the same attribute.
That's the
abilities as well.
Yeah, that's the problem with all simulation. The more complicated you make the simulation, the more quote unquote realistic or perhaps fine-tuned you can, but it also adds a layer of complexity to it. Simplify things and it becomes easier to run, it becomes faster, but you also lose some of that flexibility. So I think that really what we've got here is we've got a good spread, 4-3-3, and as you continue to play the character, if you find that I'm spending more dots in force than I once did, then when you get a chance to increase an attribute, you can do so, right? There's Max. Hello, Max.
Oh, God.
Okay. With your attributes out of the way, let's move on to your abilities. Now, technically, your abilities, according to the book, is assign a 5, 1 4, 6 3s, and 1 1. I instead have suggested spend 28 dots. And we can see how that goes. But one thing that we did with Scott before, and maybe I would encourage you to do the same, are there any abilities to which you know you have 0 dots?
Yes.
Oh. Fire away.
Close combat.
Mm-hmm.
Craft.
Yeah.
Navigate, unfortunately. Performance. Physique. And presence.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I am definitely down to hear your thoughts on...
Okay. Some of these I absolutely can tell. You've never had any crafts, and close combat I can make sense. Navigate. So in the book, or in the manuscript, I suppose I should say, because the book doesn't exist yet. Let's look at these and just make sure that this fits what you believe. So for navigate specifically, navigate is the character's ability to find her way across creation, as well as utilize modes of transportation, from riding beasts to sailing ships. So I can totally get it if Gale Whispered isn't, somebody who rides horses a lot or navigates terribly well.
She had 1 dot in ride, but no dot in sail before, and no dots in survival. I'm not sure if survival falls under that.
Survival falls under navigate.
Yeah.
So I can see this as being something in which she may have no dots. I can also see it maybe putting 1 dot in because of her ride if you want, but also this is an opportunity to make changes, right? Mm-hmm. You get the opportunity to retcon. if you so choose. So actually, we'll keep this here, but
Yeah,
close
if we
combat
could
and craft.
If we could star it, because once I've listed everything else that I've done, we might want to take a dot away and move it over there, kind of thing.
I'm color coding them. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So under performance, your ability to influence others through artful expression, oratory, prose, music, or dance does not sound like Gale Whispered to me.
Yeah.
So I would say that performance is also an easy 0. And presence is a character's ability to influence others by her personal magnetism and persuasion on an individual level. This, to me, is the thing that's going to highlight the fact that Gale Whispered had no charisma. In essence, now she'll have no presence instead. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yup.
The last is physique. The character's ability to perform physical feats, from lifting prodigiously heavy objects to toiling without stop to resisting grievous injury. So this is how you resist poison, resist disease, lift things. It's also required for ox body.
Balls.
I mentioned this because if you ever decided that you wanted to take any levels of ox body, I believe physique is a requirement. So we're I'm just gonna check that for you, but I'm pretty sure.
Do some changing.
I mean, because ox body is one of those. It's one of those charms that, you know, everybody knows is deliberate. Well, not everybody, but I suppose I'll put it this way: it is deliberately overpowered. It's one of those charms that's designed to be more powerful than your standard charm.
I'm pretty sure I didn't have it before.
Oh, Oxbody has no prerequisite.
Woohoo!
Interesting. Okay, so then you don't have to worry about it.
Hooray!
Never mind. It says literally prerequisite none, which is odd to me. I would have thought that it would require at least one physique because it is under the physique label, but it is not there. So congratulations, you don't need physique, even if you wanted to take Oxbody. So we're good on there.
Great.
Okay. Whoops, that's a little too red.
Oh, but then Gilladgood is saying this may be purchased a number of times equal to the character's physique.
Oh, is that true? Let's see.
Derp.
Yes. So then, yes, it is. Haha. Drag. So I'm going to put physique as along with navigate.
Yeah, a little star that shit.
All right. So let's have a look at your others.
Let's talk through everything else.
Do you have ideas of where you definitely want a ton of dots?
Okay. Would you like me to just lay out what I have?
Sure.
And then we can talk through anything.
Absolutely.
You want to flag. Athletics 4.
Okay.
Awareness 4.
Okay.
Embassy 2.
Mm-hmm.
Integrity 2.
Mm-hmm.
Ranged combat 4.
Mm-hmm.
Sagacity 4.
Mm-hmm.
Stealth 3.
Mm-hmm.
War 5.
Okay. So if we tally this up quickly, 16, 20, 28. So these are all your dots.
Oh, good. I did math correctly.
Currently. Let's see how this works out for you. Mm-hmm. So for stealth, you are the only PC who has any dots of stealth.
So I hear.
So Kate is mentioning something that I will point out. This is true. You are more polarized in your abilities than the other characters and how character creation is set up. I don't think this is necessarily an issue, but we can just move forward and make sure that this works the way that you intend. Okay. We've already kind of made that sort of establishment that your big thing was war right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense to keep it as 5. It's your ability to command others as well as create battlefield strategies and understand their enemies. So one thing that I will point out is that this might mean that Gale has a thing where in combat or in a wartime situation, she can get over her innate inability to deal with people because she can be good at command.
Yeah.
According to this. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, I am okay with potentially going from 5 to 4 in war in the interest of moving a dot somewhere else. So
Okay.
that's
It's something to think about.
because I think my war pool and my battle planning pool is pretty strong.
Right.
So yeah.
It is probably a good idea for you to have at least 1 5.
Yeah.
To sort of highlight this is my thing. It's my jam. Stealth at 3 makes sense. You've been doing a lot of sneaking around.
I wish I could make it 4. I really wish I could. I feel like I need to overcompensate. Oh god.
Sagacity also seems like it really fits Gale Whispered.
Yeah.
Ranged combat, this is set at 4. This is your one way to hurt people specifically. Yeah. Now, this is something that you can consider if you want, and only if you want, to put down if you'd rather focus Gale Whispered away from her direct ability to hurt people and more towards helping others hurt people. Because remember, in the new rules, now you'll have the ability to command and inspire others so that they can build power as opposed to building power yourself. I'm not against that, but I'm also completely not against Gale Whispered also still being able to deliver a beatdown. You are also the only ranged PC.
Yeah.
So this might be something that you want to hold on to.
Yeah, okay, I'll consider that. That might be a place to take away 1.
For integrity,
yeah.
you have integrity at 2.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts behind that?
I think that was just me looking at what I had before. I had 2 integrity, and so I put it there to see if I could still build the character, and I could.
So
I'm also down to losing a dot of integrity.
Right. Integrity at 1 dot bumps your resolve. Integrity at 3 dots bumps it again.
Ooh, but not at 2?
Not at 2.
Boom, 1, done. Let's take 1 away from there.
All right,
Let's
so you have a dot currently floating.
1 in physique, please.
Okay.
Great.
Embassy is your ability to navigate and negotiate social structures, large social systems, and bureaucratic procedures.
Yeah, embassy is a bit of a sore spot for me because that's where my language learning abilities went to. And like 98% of embassy does not apply to Gale, and yet the language learning does.
Right.
So Gale had good mentioned that as well. I had made a note.
Because what you want to do is you want to be able to buy the language related charms.
It's really just that Gale had a few charms that were following a certain amount of research, she could learn a language, and that felt very Gale. It's not, oh, I've been in this city for a certain amount of time, and now I know the people and I know the language. It's just like through research she'll power through.
Right.
You're all, but like also I don't know. She doesn't have her library anymore. Maybe it's just not as necessary.
Hello.
Oh yes,
Rubric
the long
Wall.
distance communication charms. Yes, that was another one.
So
my wind carried words technique, I can't buy it at present, and I was very sad.
So strange tongue understanding is there. Your ability to contemplate a foreign tongue.
Which I did take as a charm.
Right. You're talking about. Sorry, what was the charm that you can't take?
Wind carried words technique, I think is what it's called, and that was a
Yeah, wind carried words technique is specifically Embassy 3 or Performance 3.
Yeah.
It's your ability to send a spoken message of no more than a few sentences to a chosen target. It can't be overheard. So yeah, this is a thing that I know that you would like. One of the ways that I would put the way that the game is sort of balanced out, or at least one thing that the devs said, is just because you have dots in an ability, the way that you can kind of focus on your character's specialization is through charms. So even if you have something like Embassy 3, the way that then you would express like, oh, it's because of my mastery of languages, is because you would buy language related charms, but you wouldn't buy, say, the bureaucracy.
Hoi polloi charms.
Right. You wouldn't be buying bureau breaking method or Jade leaves a trail or illimitable master fence kind of thing, right? Like you're not about speeding up the wheels of bureaucracy. You're about being able to communicate. Yeah, exactly. So my suggestion to you is that it is possible that Embassy isn't necessarily a bad thing for you to keep dots into. Hey, Aragorn. Even if it seems like it's a little different these days.
Well, that's unfortunate because that was my justification for not needing to dig another dot out of somewhere else. So now I got what I now I got to find a way to bring it up to 3.
So here's a few things that I can suggest to bring it up to 3, because I do think that you probably would want it up to 3. I think you can safely leave navigate at 0.
Okay.
I think that's I'll also remind you that it's not like it's difficult for you to buy up things. You'll get more experience. You'll be able to increase things. But since we haven't really seen Gale Whispered use anything that is related to navigate, I think it's fine to start it at 0. And then if you decide...
You just need a sexy scene of her and Ciantel teaching her how to use a compass, and then their hands cover the hand.
Because there's magnetic attraction.
Exactly.
Hi, Dio. It's good to see them yarn dragon folk.
Dio.
So I think that we can leave navigate at 0. I think that's fine. I look at your athletics and your awareness, and these are the two where I wonder whether we can pull. So we can pull from either athletics, awareness, or ranged combat. I think sagacity we absolutely want to leave at 4.
Yeah.
Stealth, you could make an argument that you could put that back down to 2 unless there were specific charms that you want, but you seem to want to have a lot of stealth. So
I gotta.
So that makes sense. But I think out of athletics, awareness, and ranged combat, one of these can be put down to 3 to allow Embassy to go up. So let's have a look. Your athletics in your old sheet was at 2, but your dodge was at 5.
Yeah, so this was me splitting the old difference there.
Yeah. Your awareness was at 4, and your ranged combat, or in this case, thrown, was at 4, which means that we now have to make a sacrifice.
Exactly.
Sacrifice. I don't see sagacity dropping below 4 because you had a 4 in occult, a 3 in lore. It doesn't seem like I would pull that one down. It seems like it's a core part of who she is. Gale was good at 2 of those. She was decent at medicine. She had 2 dots in medicine.
Yep.
So sagacity seems like it should probably stay up there. So what it comes down to is, if I were to guess, I would probably say that it would be awareness that would get pulled down. Here's
awareness
why.
Is okay, yeah.
Awareness, as defined in the manuscript, because it all comes back to the manuscript at all times. Let's pull it up here. Those are charms. That's not what I want. Awareness is the character's ability to survey a scene, notice details, spot ambushes, and use their physical senses. 3 is still definitely a an excellent rating, right? 3 is still way better than most people. But I'll point a few things out. The first is that it's no longer used for join battle. Awareness isn't as strong as it was in Exalted 3rd Edition, or it still is, because join battle just isn't nearly as important. You're rolling for initiative, but rolling for initiative is now based on the skill that is most appropriate to that situation, right? It is no longer necessarily awareness. And your ability to seek things out at a 3 still means that you should be able to afford all the charms, if you have any awareness charms that you want, without it needing to be all the way up to 4, but then you will be able to afford the embassy charms that you want at 3.
I'm convinced. Let's do it.
Just do it.
So, athletics 4, which I think is important for my dodging. Awareness 3, embassy 3, integrity 1, physique 1, ranged combat 4, sagacity 4, stealth 3, war 5.
Yep, I think this is the right spread. The way that I'm seeing this now is also Gale Whispered is no slouch when it comes to physicality. She is absolutely somebody who's quite, I won't say necessarily strong, but her body is honed, right? It knows what to do and how to execute well. Athletics 4 and ranged combat 4 is nothing to shake a stick at. But we also have a lot of focus on the things that I feel is Gale Whispered defining: war, sagacity, and then those other utility charms, which we'll look into when we get to charms, I think will really highlight still what makes Gale Whispered at her core.
Cool. Great.
All right. So with that, let's also remember that we can come back to abilities if we need to. This is not a final thing, but let's have a look now. We're going to move on. After abilities, technically comes charms. We're going to deal with charms later. Just I find it's a little too early to start getting into that there. Let's go to merits instead.
Sweat.
So under merits, you have a primary, a secondary, and 2 tertiary merits. Now, if we look at your previous character sheet, we'll bring that up and we'll look at merits. So you have eidetic memory, which no longer exists. We have artifact, fast reflexes, which also no longer exists, a single dot of resources, a mentor, and a language, which is no longer a merit. So of these, we have artifact, resources, and Bracken as your mentor.
Yeah.
Now, with all that in mind, let's have a look at what merits we might be able to get for you now, because obviously your circumstances have changed from the beginning of Exalted Witch Academy Season 1 and the end of Season 1. So, your artifact, I assume you want to keep.
Yes, please.
Now, as your artifact, you can keep this as kind of a, let's see here. You don't necessarily have to make it your primary. You can keep this as, you think you'd want to keep that still as your primary? Okay.
Yeah.
So in that case, here we can come back to here. Let's have a look at your merits, and we'll say that your artifact, which is Soaring Eye, is your primary.
Great.
I'm not putting it the full 5 dots because this wasn't ever intended to be a 5-dot artifact, but I'm putting it at 4, even though originally it was at 3. This is fine. I'll also point out that because we don't have a ruling on this yet, I'm going to give you 1 evocation for free, but we're going to have to rewrite your evocations anyway because they're based on the old system. It will still be thematically appropriate, but you'll get 1 evocation for free, and then we'll find out what happens with the other ones, whether you have to buy them or not, because it's really not clear. But we're not going to count it as one of your starting charms. And then if Aresta ends up with an artifact, she'll get an evocation for free as well.
Get on it, Kate. Come on. your whole body is an artifact.
I mean, her body's a wonderland.
Oh no.
So Gale Whispered says that I think here. So here we're getting into spoiler territory. It's relatively minor spoiler, so I'm not gonna like super flag it here. But Gale Whispered points out, I think the merit that ended up being the primary is Bracken. The relationship with her was a key factor in how Gale shaped through the season. It doesn't have to remain that way, but it could.
So I made her my secondary.
So this is allies.
Ally Bracken. Secondary.
Now, Bracken, I should point out, if we look at allies in the book, a secondary is a friend as powerful as a young exalt or lesser god, and a primary is as powerful as an experienced exalt or greater god. So, here's a way that I've described it. Siantel, Flavienne, they're secondary. They're considered a 3-dot ally. Bracken can also be considered a 3-dot ally. She isn't actually that powerful. She's powerful, like all exalts are powerful, but Bracken on her own isn't significantly more powerful at this time. So I think it's safe to keep her as a secondary.
Sweet.
So I think that that's okay. Did you have ideas for your tertiaries?
I did. I was thinking resources, and I was grasping at straws here. So I have an idea. Backing, like a gateway league.
Okay, you want to explain to me what a gateway league is?
I was hoping you could explain to me what a gateway. Well, no. The idea is that when she's not at school, she still participates in like gateway tournaments and has built up a certain reputation and a name for herself within these ranks.
Okay. I would argue that this is less backing and more influence.
Okay, that works too.
Influence is technically defined here as your character carries sway in and then it's either like a local village or a city-state or a powerful city-state. I'm going to say that we can call it as a tertiary influence. But it is focused less on the idea that it's in a small area and more on people who have heard of your prowess at Gateway.
Yeah, like it only applies to people who are such Gateway nerds that they follow it.
Right. A league might also be contacts. So that's Brendan Hawkwood and Real Brickwall are pointing that out. So my question is this.
Yes.
Are you planning on using this merit to help you gather information? Or are you planning on using this to help you sway people in terms of social influence?
I'm hoping to use it to ensure that we're like not immediately killed when we walk into a city, like if our identity is discovered on our travels.
So this is more influence than contacts. Contacts is really your ability to call somebody up and say, yo, I need information about this, and they're like,
she doesn't trust Gateway players with acquiring intel for her.
Okay. So instead, this influence is going to specifically be your ability to sway others. So you might be able to be like, look, help me out. I'm a cool Gateway player. And see if that will help you out. And also the justification for you to purchase more of this influence would be you continuing to impress others at your skill at Gateway.
Right.
If you, for some reason, stopped playing Gateway or renounced Gateway, or you started suffering like incredible defeats at Gateway, then that would be a way for you to lose this merit and replace it with something else.
Okay.
So we're not going to call it backing. We're going to call it influence.
Sounds good.
But I think that works out. So your merits currently are your artifact, Soaring Eye, your allies. So in this case, it's Bracken as a mentor, your resources, which is 1, and your influence, which is through gateway players. Now,
how many dots would that be?
I would say for your resources, if I look at your sheet, you had resources 1. Now, as a tertiary, you can have resources 1 or you can have resources 2. That's kind of up to you. And for your influence and
do we already have somebody super rich in our group?
I believe neither of them took resources.
What?
I can
gosh.
verify that.
So we're gonna be like
Aresta has resources 1.
Okay, good.
Pyres, I believe, does not have any resources.
I call shenanigans on that. Pyres has no money?
He had the choice between either having money or having influence or contacts, and he chose influence and contacts and did not choose resources instead.
God damn it, Pyres, you're supposed to be the rich one. Oh no.
Thing is, this is more your choice, whether you believe that you should have resources 1 or 2.
I feel like I should have resources 2.
Okay. And for your influence, this can be at 1 or 2.
2, please.
All right. So you currently have, let me just check this here. I'm just going to make sure that this is all correct. Okay, we're actually going to make Bracken a level 4.
Ooh.
And we're going to have, so your artifact is still your primary. Bracken is, so your artifact is at 4, your ally, Bracken, is at 4, your resources are at 2, and your influence is at 2.
Perfect. Thank you.
Make sense?
That makes excellent sense.
Okay, let's move on to virtues and intimacies. Now, for virtues and intimacies, I am currently not going to go through your entire your entire influence list, or your intimacy list, I should say. That's something that you can do on your own, figuring out what is appropriate to keep, what is appropriate to change, what is appropriate to delete. I'm also going to say that you should think about which virtue you want to place each intimacy under, but I wouldn't worry too much. The idea of putting an intimacy under a virtue is more of a role-playing aid than a mechanical thing, and I don't think you need the role-playing help. We've been playing this for a while, but you do have to select 2 virtues, a major and a minor. Because these say essentially now all of your intimacies are now minor or major, as opposed to minor, major, or defining. You no longer have defining intimacies. Those kind of get bumped down to major. But you do have virtues, and the virtues are, these are things that kind of help define your character, and they're the only things about your character that no one else can mess with. You're the only person who can decide what your virtues are and if they change.
Okay.
So there are 7 virtues. I'm going to list them, and you keep in mind which ones sound like they might be better to go in depth on. And if you need a definition for any of them, I will let you have that. The 7 virtues are ambition, compassion, courage, discipline, justice, loyalty, and wonder. So these are also no longer are we focused on things like the Christian virtues and vices, that kind of thing. These are the 7 that they've chosen to use as the definition.
Okay. What I had thought would be having wonder as the major virtue and discipline as the minor virtue.
All right, let's have a look at wonder and discipline.
Sweet.
Where are my lists? I want my lists. There we go. All right. If we're looking at your virtues, wonder, the Exalt views the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity. She always tries to discover new things and treats all experiences as valuable for learning. She values learning, discover, adventure, and exploration. She can't stand to see the destruction of knowledge or the incurious. For example, Amber Rose, the Sidereal's wonder comes from their desire to go new places and find new experiences. This feels like it hits pretty well.
Yeah. Agreed.
Now, when it comes to discipline, and this is something that's interesting because I don't believe the other characters have chosen discipline as one of their virtues yet. The character values personal restraint and dedication. She acts with precision and methodical thought, using caution to ensure victory. While cautious, she is not cowardly. That would go against her own views of dedication or devotion. She hates rash action and impulsivity. For example, Violet Sky, the Liminal's discipline drives her to resist the advances of wicked necromancers who would turn her from her work of laying the dead to rest.
So it's tough because I feel like she's disciplined unless her major virtue is triggered, in which case discipline goes out the window. So that's why it seemed like it could still work as a minor virtue.
Yep, there will be times that you will have to make a choice.
Yeah, like she throws caution to the wind when she's in the pursuit of knowledge.
Yep.
So
I think that's completely fair. It also means that there are ways that people can manipulate you, even if it would go against your discipline, by appealing to your wonder instead.
Yes.
Right? And that is the case with all of this, right? There's going to be times where your intimacies and your virtues will act against you. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Just before we move on, I know that we said that we weren't going to go through this specifically, but I am looking at your list of intimacies. We'll put them on screen here. A lot of these intimacies on your sheet are minor. Mm-hmm. You, in fact, only have 3 intimacies that are above minor. You have your respect for Sinis Bracken. Mm-hmm. You have the most dangerous threat is one hidden from view. And you have forbidden knowledge yields untold victories. Mm-hmm. So this makes a lot of sense. Forbidden knowledge yields untold victories would probably, well, no, it absolutely.
That goes under wonder.
Yeah, and that would be a major. I would imagine that hasn't suddenly not mattered to you.
No, it matters more than ever now. I also put to be closed-minded is to have already lost under wonder.
Okay.
And then, I just ported 3 over. And then under discipline, I have, if I don't identify every possible outcome, nobody will.
All right. And those, the latter 3, mm-hmm. were they minors? So forbidden knowledge yields untold victories I've put as a major.
Yeah.
To be closed-minded is to have already lost. Is that a minor or a major?
I believe that is a minor. Let me check. Yeah, it's a minor.
And if I don't identify every possible outcome, nobody will.
Also a minor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got this here. We can absolutely put others of these in here as well. But for now, we'll leave your virtues and intimacies. It seems like they're pretty well, you're not going to have an issue with moving those over. Some may no longer apply and some may have changed, especially your ties.
Yeah.
So.
And figuring out which virtue those go under as well. I know It's not that important, but still figuring that.
Yeah. I mean, House of Bells opportunity.
There's no more opportunity there.
Okay. It's time to move on to the big kahuna. It's Charms time. Now, there are a lot of charms, obviously. You have access to 9 charms, but you also get access to 2 of an excellency or oxbody. So you can have 2 excellencies, you can have 1 excellency and 1 ox body. You can't actually take 2 ox body right now. You don't have the physique for it.
I will take the ox body and an excellency in sagacity, please.
All right, so here, let's swap over to your charms.
Now I'm going for inches. Kate, what did you say? What did you say?
That would be incisor patches,
Nice.
would be my guess. So, an excellency in sagacity
Yes.
and 1 level of ox body technique.
How exciting. It's a first for Liz. Or a first for Gale, not for Liz.
All right. Now, we got a bunch more charms to investigate. Why don't we put them all in, and then we can discuss.
Sounds good.
So, let's... Here, let me pull
Yeah,
up.
because I have 13.
You have 13. All right, so we got to whittle 13 to 9.
Yeah.
Meh. She? Meh. All right, let me pull up the list, and you have your own list.
I do. Also, I copied the description of the charms into my notes, but I did not copy what page anything was in or what the prereqs were. So it's possible that with my new ability spread,
We don't actually know the pages anyway, right? So
that's true.
all right, let's start at the top. Why don't you list them out, and I will fill in the sheet while we go.
Flickering shadow evasion.
Okay.
So you just want the name of the charm
Yeah,
first?
we're just going to name the charms first.
Great. Mongoose and Cobra Escape.
Okay.
Jade Leaves a Trail.
Mm-hmm.
All-encompassing Sorcerer's Sight.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal Summoning Gesture.
Mm-hmm.
Double Distance Technique.
Yep.
No Arrow Wasted.
Oh, but what if I want to get wasted? Bro.
Reflex Shot Technique.
We'll just take some shots while we're getting wasted.
Right on, bruh.
Archive Mind Mentality.
Okay.
Truth Rendering Gaze.
I love rendering.
I'm rendering.
Okay.
Battle Plan Rumination.
Mm-hmm.
Storm Calling Strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's Wind Carried Words technique.
Okay.
I just wrote it at the end so I wouldn't forget now that I can afford it.
All right. So that is 13 charms, and we need to bring that down.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have a look at them, and we'll see which ones we feel are appropriate. So we're gonna color code these on your sheet right now. We'll have green as like, yes, we know we're taking this, yellow as we're considering it, and red as we can consider most likely dropping it unless we are unless we need to fill up some charm slots.
Perfect.
All right, so let's go first. We'll run down the list. Flickering Shadow Evasion.
Yes.
So Flickering Shadow Evasion is basically your ability to dodge. It's your add defense against attack, and I feel like this is probably an important charm, right? You don't want to get hit because as we all know, Gale Whispered likes to talk shit
And not get hit.
So let's I'm putting it in yellow, not because it's like I wonder whether we're gonna get rid of it, but I wouldn't say that this is like a defining Gale Whispered charm. It's just this looks like it'll be quite useful for you.
It'll help keep her alive, yeah.
Right. Okay. Next up, you have Mongoose and Cobra Escape. So this is after successfully defending against an attack, you can move a range band as a reflexive action.
I mean, doesn't that sound awesome?
It does sound pretty awesome. It means that essentially, if you manage to dodge an attack, you get to further press the advantage by moving further away and continuing to yeet your chakram at people.
Yeah,
so I'm going to keep this also in yellow.
There's a cool, for Dragon-Blooded, it's called Hopping Firecracker Evasion.
Mm-hmm.
A Dragon-Blooded creates difficult terrain between her and her opponent.
So in this case, it would probably be, gusts of air.
Yeah, like a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
Good
that
luck.
would interfere. So yeah, kiting. Essentially, this is your kiting ability.
Exactly.
All right. Wind carried words I've actually put as next because it goes along with the other embassy charms.
Mm-hmm.
Wind carried words is your ability to speak to other people silently. I feel like this, even more than those dodge charms that you've mentioned, are pretty critical for Gale.
Yeah.
She's used it quite a bit. So I'm going to throw that into green for now.
Great.
We also have Jade Leaves a Trail. Oh, I'm looking for it in the wrong sheet. Here we go. Jade Leaves a Trail. So this is, you commit a mote while investigating a situation. Could be a crime scene, fraudulent operation, politicians' activities. You can exchange successes on relevant awareness or embassy roles to ask the following questions, like, who does the target work for? What is not as it seems? Who benefits the most from the actions being investigated? So this is kind of your casing the scene, or sorry, more like character profiling than a situation. Like, it kind of fits under both. How important is this charm for you? Like, is it as important as wind carried words?
No, definitely not. It's I think that was me trying to make up for the fact that I had, I had 4 dots in investigation, and I was hoping to reflect that.
Okay. So we're going to leave it in yellow for now, because I do think that this is a good charm for you to take, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if you didn't start with it.
No.
Right? Because the other thing is, you will get a chance to buy more charms. You will earn experience.
This is it.
This is it.
That's it. Cool beans.
All right.
Brennan kindly pointed out that the next charm might in fact need to be removed because I removed the prereq.
So you're talking specifically of all-encompassing sorcerer's sight?
Yes.
Yeah. So you need spirit cutting glance,
Yeah.
which I don't believe you took.
No, I had it when I was first making this list, and then I was like, I don't know how much spirit cutting I'm going to be doing at present, so I just removed it without checking to see if it created.
So it's your ability to perceive the presence of essence.
Yeah.
I think we can safely remove this for now,
Great.
especially because you don't have the prerequisite, and you're
Done.
not interested in picking it up right away. So we'll leave it out for now. Let's move on to a charm that has proven quite popular, and I know why.
We're not fools.
Arsenal Summoning Gesture is your ability to essentially summon weapon, armor, or both. You can store it elsewhere. You can store it at close range, and it'll just pop on as a reflexive action. And you can dissolve your weapon in an embodiment of your element, so you can literally pluck Soaring Eye from the air. Just like, and it, yeah, you just blow on your hand and it appears. So this is not something that Gale Whispered had before, but I get the impression that you think it's pretty cool and you want to keep it anyway.
That you would be impressing correctly.
Okay. I'm going to leave it at yellow, but I do think that this is, I believe everyone is taking this charm, and like Kate said, it is just such a flavorful charm. I really do like it. So I
This
think
way we can do it all in sync.
yeah, essentially. Double distance technique.
Yes.
You extend the reach of one of your ranged weapons by 1 range band. This cannot supplement attacks made with pure essence, such as Glorious Exalted Bolt. I will point out that this is a permanent charm. It means you can yeet Soaring Eye. Basically, instead of it topping out, I think, at medium range, I think you'll be able to attack at long range. You will still have the long range penalty applied to your roll, right? It just means that now it doesn't mean that like, oh, everything gets shifted over by 1. It's you just have the ability to go further. This is also not something that Gale Whispered had access to before.
Well, the throne charms just weren't that great in 3rd. Like I feel comfortable saying this now. I hated the throne charms I had, and I think I used one once. It just and that's not to say that like they're terrible charms. It just really didn't work for the type of character I was building. All of a sudden, these ones, I'm like a kid in a candy store, and I want all of them.
Okay. When you say kid in a candy store, I want all of them, that leads me to believe that maybe we can leave some off initially. But this one is pretty cool. Would you say that this one is more or less important than Arsenal Summoning Gesture?
Less, because what's the point of throwing if I don't have my weapon?
Okay. No arrow. Whoop. Thanks, Ash. Kerblam. No arrow wasted. So on step 5 of ranged combat action, if your original attack failed to defeat the target's defense, you get to spend a mote and an anima, and you declare a different target and you roll against them instead.
Right?
So so this is essentially, I missed, but wait, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't. It's perfect for Liz.
I was aiming for someone else all along.
Haha, sucker! Try again. You missed again. Fuck. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
also
just a fun charm.
Yeah, also seems like a pretty fun charm. Reflex shot technique. Spend a mote. You use your reflexive move action while simultaneously taking an aim action. So this means that you can continue to be... I better hydrate right the heck now. Oh, fuck. I can't ignore that. Okay. So this is essentially the I remain mobile on the battlefield at all times charm.
Yes. Now, Gillard Good just pointed out something that might change my mind.
All right. Sharpshooter's clever tricks is when the Exalt purchases this charm, choose 2 of its unique modes. At ranged combat 4, you may purchase this charm a second time to gain an additional mode. Its effects cost 1 committed mote for the scene. So you can either have reduce the cost of gambits using ranged combat by 1. You can reduce all penalties from the environment, poor visibility, or other hazards by your essence. You can use build power actions with ranged combat by making non-attack warning shots or distracting volleys. So this action benefits from the weapon's overwhelming rating, but no other equipment bonuses.
Okay.
You can aim and take a reflexive move action, but no other movement actions. So that's a reflexive move action, I should point out. And then another one which is only applies to sidereals.
Okay.
So I will say that it is a little strange that reflex shot technique exists when Sharpshooter's clever tricks exists, because it absolutely lets you do that. The only difference between the two is that reflex shot technique means that you can use a reflexive move action, but you can still also use another move action. Whereas Sharpshooter's where is it? Archer's centered focus means that you can't take any movement actions otherwise. It may be a versioning error, that's true.
I don't know.
My suggestion might be to take neither at this time.
What?
You're gonna have to find some.
Aim.
You're gonna have to find some to cut eventually.
I know, but oh my god, being able to like, the aim was the bane of my existence. The fact that you like basically can't do anything else except aim.
Okay.
The fact that you could move and aim.
So here's what I will point out in terms of the combat abilities, in terms of the how combat works this time around. Aim as an action. As a simple action, the character stands still and takes aim at a target, then makes a ranged attack with a 3 dice bonus. So it is not you one round you aim and then the next round you fire. The difference is the aim action here is you can't move, but you get to attack.
Aim and attack on the same turn.
Yeah, in fact, you must. Aiming is not something that you like aim and then you don't do anything else. It's aim and then you attack and you get a 3 dice bonus. So it's essentially you can move and attack, or you can aim and attack, but you can't do both. These charms let you aim and move and attack. But it's no longer aim, and that's what you do this round.
Okay. I'm gonna write it on my list, just so I'm gonna write sharpshooters clever tricks on my list just so I don't forget about it. But maybe I can do without it at the beginning.
Okay. So I'm going to take reflex shot technique.
Yeah.
And sharpshooters clever tricks. I'm going to put them at the bottom of the list, and I'm going to keep them in red for now.
Perfect.
Oops, too red. There we go. So we're going to head back into charms. And let's have a look at Archive Mind Mentality. Archive Mind Mentality is eidetic memory. The Exalt's memory is perfect, allowing her to recall anything she has witnessed with absolute clarity. This requires only a moment's concentration, though attempts to re-examine past events for clues may require a roll. The player asks the storyteller for details her character may remember. She may also use stunt dice to dramatic edit in details she thinks are appropriate, which is pretty cool. And you may spend an hour of downtime in meditation to recall events from your ancestors' lives, though these details are often hazy. Use a dramatic scene. Now, Gale Whispered had eidetic memory, but you didn't use it all that often.
No.
So, as much as I would say this definitely does help make up for the fact that eidetic memory is no longer a merit, I'm not certain that this is something that you are like, oh yeah, I definitely have to have this to make Gale feel like Gale. So my question to you is, how important is this charm to you right now? Because it does have the added benefit of recalling ancestor lives, which you wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, like I think it's a very interesting charm. But it's not like necessary to create the feel of Gale at this time.
Okay.
Can we star it or put it in some kind of maybe color?
Yep. We absolutely
Thank
can.
you.
Truth Rendering Gaze. So, spend a mote. You may automatically divine the purpose and function of a mundane object, a structure, or even the geomancy and advantages of natural terrain. For artifacts, first age artifice, and other magical objects and technologies, you can make a force plus sagacity roll to achieve the same effect. Success reveals details like the name of an artifact, its history, previous wielders, momentous events it may have been involved in, and if applicable, you add your essence and dice to a single relevant craft, navigate, or war roll based on the information gleaned from this charm. Craft and navigate rolls you don't care about, but war rolls you just might. Again, not something that you had access to before, but might be something that you want to have access to now.
There's also the added benefit for Dragon-Blooded. When studying jade artifacts or terrain that matches the Exalt's aspect, this charm automatically succeeds. It's fun.
That is true. So how do you feel about this one?
I I just feel like if Gale's traveling creation and maybe uncovering some artifacts and some shit that she's really curious about, this could be really cool.
So is this something that you think that Gale would already have, or something that she might decide would be useful in her travels?
It feels like something she would already have, but just hasn't had the opportunity to use up to this point.
Okay, so then we're going to leave it here, because otherwise I would have said buy it later, but otherwise we'll leave it here for now.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know.
For sure. We're still, I mean, at the moment, of the charms that you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now you have your 9 charms, and we have 2 to look at still.
Yeah.
So there's Battle Plan Rumination. You spend a mote. If a roll during a wartime dramatic scene fails, you may use this charm to immediately re-roll it. If the re-rolled result is lower, you take the higher result of your original roll and increase the successes by 2. You also, the player whose character is the lead tactician in the dramatic scene chooses another player. They decide on a significant battle both characters' forebears took part in, and the roles those family members played in it, and you add the second character's relevant ability to the tactics dice pool. So this is very specifically for dramatic warfare scenes.
Yeah.
Definitely something that I could see Gale Whispered having.
I agree.
And then storm calling strategies. The Dragon-Blooded darkens the horizon with thunderstorms, gale force winds, or snowfalls that precede their army. You commit a mote. This enacts this charm as a tactic for a single battle. Enemy battle groups suffer a 3 dice environmental penalty on all physical actions taken in combat. Individuals suffer a 2 dice penalty instead, and allies are unaffected. And then you can upgrade it at Essence 3 to call down bolts of lightning.
I'm Thor. Woo!
We are not doing that significant a time jump, Kill Edgood. I can say that. There you go. Minor spoilers for everybody. We're not time jumping to such a degree that Gale Whispered could have picked up sorcery.
Also, I wouldn't want to do that off stream.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think that would be a significant enough event.
So,
I want to play it out.
Definitely a very cool thing. Not something that I've seen Gale Whispered do.
No, I'm down for removing that one, and maybe buying it later.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that down here. I do think it's a very cool charm, and I do think it would be neat to see Gale Whispered use it in the future. But it is something that I haven't seen her do yet.
Agreed.
It's also incredibly powerful, so I'm wondering whether it might get versioned.
Possible.
We shall see. So, of these, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're down to choosing one charm to choose later. To axe. Of these, I'm going to point out that Wind Carried Words is the only one that you were like, yes, absolutely, I want this. So we'll keep it.
Yeah.
Now, of the other ones that we have here, is there a charm right now that you can say, I absolutely want this just because I'm Liz and I want this? Because I think it would be too cool. I don't want to give it up.
I have a suggestion for the one to give up.
Okay.
And that is Archive Mind Mentality. Because Battle Plan Rumination, recalling a past battle, to me, is cooler than recalling past events in an ancestor's life.
Okay.
So recalling a past ancestor's battle, I think, is more interesting and more Gale.
Okay. So for Archive Mind Mentality, I'll also point out that it is still a charm that you can buy at any point if you so chose. And because it's a charm that you can buy, it's okay. It's not like Eidetic Memory where if you don't take it at character creation, you're boned. So I think that's a good choice. If you decide later on that you want it, you can get it.
Yay.
So this leaves you with Flickering Shadow Evasion and Mongoose and Cobra Escape to let you bounce around the battlefield and dodge away from people as you see fit. You have Wind-Carried Words to communicate with others. Jade leaves a trail so that you can investigate or case people properly. You have Arsenal Summoning Gesture to look cool and to also be sure that you have access to your weapons when you want them. You have Double Distance Technique so that you can now yeet things at long range. You have No Arrow Wasted so that even if you miss somebody, you get the chance to try to attack somebody else. Although that second attack you can't modify with charms, so it's not as you won't be able to say use an Excellency or whatever, although you don't actually have an Excellency in ranged combat just yet.
Correct.
You have Truth Rendering Gaze, so you are able to to render some truth.
Rendered.
And you have Battle Plan Rumination so that you can remember battles and shit.
Yeah.
So those are your 9, and I feel like they're a good 9 to have. You also have some charms that you can choose to pick up later on. Sharpshooter's Clever Tricks and Reflex Shot Technique are interesting ideas. Storm Calling Strategies, I believe, would also be a cool moment for Gale Whispered, and Archive Mind Mentality if you ever decide that you need to pull something up. I'll also point out that in the rules now, you can spend a stunt to spend experience to learn a charm in the middle of a session.
Shit.
As long as you have the experience for it.
Okay.
So if you get the experience and you're like, oh, this is great, this is what I want to have, then you can spend it right away and just buy it. But if you have it and you're like, oh man, I'm not sure which one is going to be more useful for this particular session, you can use that as a stunt. So it can be the moment that Gale Whispered realizes that she can manipulate a storm, you stunt it, and then you can learn the charm instantly.
Yes, that's so cool.
You can only do it once a session.
Right.
But,
that makes sense.
But like that's a way for you to be able to do that. And I don't know if Gwen's going to be that mad that we're holding on to XP, because I feel like Gwen might also realize that if you spend XP in the middle of a session, that can be even more badass in some ways. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. So there we go. We got your 9. You got Ox Body Technique and an Excellency. I believe that you can also then later on spend other, I think either a personal or an Exalt milestone can repurchase Excellencies, so you'll be able to buy other Excellencies as you see fit.
Nice. Okay.
So there is that as well. I mean, we'll see if they make changes to that, but for now we're just not going to worry about it. Which means that this is your sheet. Let's go over it one more time. We have a Finesse at 4, but Force and Fortitude are both at 3, all of which are decent pools, right? Like it's literally a 1 die difference between choosing one or the other, so it's not like a huge thing. Oh yeah, converting the Soaring Eye evocation is going to be interesting. I will actually ask you then, we're not going to do the conversion live, but I will ask you, of the 2 evocations that you have, so let's call them up here.
Of course, I just closed it. There we go.
Oh, of course,
Of course.
There were Dreams of the Victor and Hopes of the Helpless. So Dreams of the Victor specifically was, knowing the hopes and dreams of a good soldier is worth next to nothing compared to those of her commander. Before a decisive attack, Soaring Eye's wielder may commit 5 motes. If the attack is successful and damage is dealt, the evocation activates, and the next time the wielder is asleep, you may take a Read Intentions action on the target's commander. Yeah. And then there's Hopes of the Helpless, which is your ability to, when you lose an ally, either because they fall or is otherwise removed, there were choices that you can make, such as negating an enemy's stratagem, gaining bonus dice to combat movement action. Initiative Crash no longer exists, so we'd have to replace that. Or you immediately learn the exact location of local enemy placements. So here's one other thing that I'll point out about your sheet.
Yeah.
The ability to read intentions is integrity, which you currently have at 1. Now, you can buy read intentions on another role, another social role, right? But you're pretty bad at other social roles. You don't have presence. Embassy, I don't think is used for social roles, although it might. I can check. Let me just have a look here. So
I think that may be why my integrity was at 2. Now it's all coming back to me.
It's all coming back. So if I look at influence roles, it comes down to the appropriate. So the most common abilities for influence actions are embassy. So you still have that at 3.
Okay.
Performance, presence, and war. So you could potentially roll war to take social influence actions on somebody. But specifically, if you're only reading intentions, it's integrity. But you can buy a read intentions off another social influence role. Do you know how that works?
No, I don't.
Okay. Let's say that you are trying to persuade someone to do something. And let's say you're commanding somebody through war. So you would make your war roll, and if you succeed, great. But what happens if you get extra successes? You can buy additional effects with those extra successes, such as reading intentions. So let's say you rolled 4 extra successes on your original persuade roll. Well, you can spend some of those successes to read intentions as well.
Right. Gotcha. I forgot read intentions was included in those fun bonuses.
Right. So we can make it work, either one of these evocations. But of the 2 evocations that you have, Dreams of the Victor and Hopes of the Helpless, which one would you say is the one that you would prefer to have access to now?
Hopes of the Helpless.
Okay, so that's probably the one that we will convert at the start.
Thank you. Yeah, Dreams of the Victor, I found Gale wasn't making enough decisive attacks because her initiative wasn't high enough, and it wasn't something I was willing to risk because it involved committing 5 motes before the attack is rolled, so before I know if it's successful or not. So I just found I wasn't like reaching for it. The only one I successfully did it on was Ciantel, and then she immediately joined our side. I think Hopes of the Helpless is it's gonna work great.
Well, now you could use it if you ever wanted to see arrest, if you wanted to read intentions and arrest. Okay, so that makes sense. Otherwise, we'll fill in information about things like weapon and soak and resolve and all of that stuff. Those are all just static things that we can just put in as necessary. How do you feel about how you'll be able to play Gale Whispered with this sheet?
I feel very good about it. The only thing that I think I'm gonna need to figure out is integrity. If having just 1 dot in that is gonna bite me in the ass. But it's something that might just reveal itself in play.
Thankfully, you can make changes to your sheet, right? We already know this. But also, experience now, as you spend it, it is no longer it is now just a straight up flat cost. It is not a linear cost. So you don't have to spend 12 XP to boost something that you already have at 4. It's just the next dot. So integrity being at 1, when you get the appropriate milestone, you can just put integrity to 2, or you can put integrity to 3, or you can put, if you wanted to, say, move one of your athletics from 4 to put that down to 3 to make your integrity 2, and then you're like, oh crap, I really want my athletics at 4, you just pop that in. Not a big deal. So, and a war strider, please, Santa.
Horse Striders.
Well, that makes sense. Do you have any other questions or comments about the sheet?
No, this is great. And I'm really excited. And thank you for your very valuable input as always.
It's like I've done this before. All right. Well, then in that case, why don't you tell us what's going on tomorrow?
I'm going to need someone to remind me what day it is.
It is Thursday today.
Okay, so tomorrow is Punchy. We're continuing the Punch Effect, which is Mass Effect with Punchy, 6 o'clock Eastern on my channel. Saturday, there will not be a Drew Crew, very sadly. And then Sunday, there will be a Punchy Book Club, 1 o'clock Eastern on my channel. We are chatting The Wicked and the Divine, volume 5, 6? Crosshair's not here. Crosshair would know. I don't know what I'm reading. I'll have to check my Comixology.
It's fair. And then on Sunday at 6?
On Sunday at 6, we are doing episode 0 of Exalted Academy Essence.
That's the way to put it.
Academy Essence.
Well, thanks for joining me. The sheet is now yours to figure out and tinker and doodle with as you will. If you're interested in seeing a copy of the sheet and maybe making sheets of your own, it is pinned over in our Discord. You can find it. Kate developed this sheet in Google Sheets, and you can download it and mess around with it as well. So by all means, maybe if you're making your new headcanon original character, that might be a way to do it. Throw it on this sheet. So I will look forward to doing that. I'm going to look forward to, even though no Drew Crew is a sadness for me, it's still, I will just have to look forward to it next week. But otherwise, thanks so much for doing this, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. It was great to see you. If you have any questions for us, now's the time. Otherwise, I think we might as well call it here. So we'll just give people that moment to react. But frankly, I'm just looking forward to this.
Me too, very much.
All right.
Change is good.
How are we so awesome? Because everyone's awesome. We just dare to put ourselves out there.
What?
My favorite drink? What is our favorite drink? I have a drink that I can't have anymore. I have to say that. My favorite drink was an ice cold Dr. Pepper in a frosted mug, but can't do that anymore. Thank you, Pramster.
I think mine would have to be Prosecco.
Nice.
Or champagne if I'm feeling super fancy, but like I just love the bubbles.
Nice. These days it's a good old-fashioned diet root beer. That would probably be my favorite drink right now.
Ooh, nice.
All right. Well, we'll call it there. Thanks so much for being there. And we'll see you hopefully soon. Especially I hope to see you on Sunday. But I mean, I'm looking forward to some Punch Effect because
Me too.
who doesn't love that? All right. See you next time.
Bye.